Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so genuinely happy you clicked on this today. Like, out of everything the internet was offering you right now, you chose us. And honestly, that does something to my heart every single time. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jack, and if you are new here, please stay. This is not a channel where we talk at you with a textbook open. This is a place where English feels like a real thing that real people actually use. We talk, we explain, we laugh a little, and hopefully something sticks. So please stay with us.
And subscribe. I'm going to ask you right now at the very beginning, before we even get into the topic, please subscribe to this channel. Not because it's a thing YouTube people say, but because Jack and I pour so much of ourselves into every single video. And every new subscriber is a real person choosing to come back. And that means everything to us. It really does.
It means everything, every notification, every new face in this community, I feel it. So if you're enjoying what we do here, please hit that button. It keeps us going more than you know.
Okay, today's topic. And this one is so good because it's one of those things that sounds simple on the surface, but is actually full of really useful, really natural English that most learners don't practice nearly enough.
What are we talking about?
Talking about your hobby, your hobbies, the things you do when nobody is telling you what to do.
Oh, this is such a good one because this comes up all the time in real conversation. You meet someone new, you're at a party, you're in a job interview, you're on a first date, and at some point someone says, "So, what do you do in your free time?" And
Suddenly, your mind goes completely blank, even though you have hobbies. You definitely have hobbies. You have been doing them your entire life. But now you have to describe them in English, and nothing is coming out.
exactly, and you end up saying something like, "I like movie." Just movie. One movie, singular, and then silence.
Which, to be fair, is understandable. But today we are going to make sure that never happens to you again. Or at least it happens a lot less dramatically.
Much less dramatically. So let's start at the very beginning, the most basic question. What are your hobbies, or what do you do in your free time? How do you even open that answer? Because I think a lot of people stumble right at the start.
Right, the very first sentence. And the thing is, there are so many ways to answer this, and they all sound slightly different and carry slightly different meanings. So let's actually go through them. The most basic is just I like. I like reading, I like cooking. That works. It's simple, it's clear.
Totally fine. But if you want to sound a little more natural, a little more like someone who's been speaking English their whole life, you can use I'm into. I'm into photography. I'm into hiking.
I'm into is such a good one because it sounds casual and genuine, like you actually care about the thing. When someone says, I'm into pottery, I immediately believe that they are genuinely passionate about pottery.
Versus I like pottery, which is perfectly fine, but sounds just a little bit more neutral. Like maybe you like pottery or maybe you're just being polite.
Exactly. And then there's I'm really into or I'm really passionate about for the things that are more than just a hobby, the things that are kind of a big part of who you are.
Oh yes, I'm really passionate about photography. That tells me something different than I like taking pictures. Both are true maybe, but one tells me this is important to you. This is part of your identity.
And that distinction matters in conversation because people respond differently. When you say you're passionate about something, people get curious. They ask follow-up questions. Suddenly, you have a whole conversation instead of just an exchange.
And isn't that the goal? Like the goal of talking about your hobby in English is not just to answer a question and move on. It's to connect with someone, to give them a window into who you actually are.
Yes, and this is something I feel like language learners sometimes forget. They're so focused on whether the grammar is right that they forget the conversation is supposed to be about something real. And hobbies are real. Your hobbies are genuinely about you. So when you talk about them, you have something real to say.
Which is actually such an advantage because a lot of what makes speaking feel hard is not knowing what to say. But with hobbies, you know. You know exactly what you do, what you love about it, how it makes you feel. You already have all the content. You just need the language to carry it.
So let's build up that language piece by piece, because once you learn how to introduce a hobby, the next thing someone is going to ask is, "Oh, really? How long have you been doing that?"
And this is where learners often get tripped up, because we're now talking about time and duration, and English has some specific ways of expressing this that can feel a little confusing.
Right. So if someone asks how long you've been doing something, the natural answer uses for or since. I've been doing it for about 3 years. I've been playing guitar since I was a teenager.
And notice the verb form there. I've been doing, I've been playing. That's the present perfect continuous, which sounds very fancy in grammar textbooky, but in real life you just use it without even thinking about it because it's the most natural way to talk about something you started in the past and are still doing now.
And if the grammar name is making you nervous, don't worry about the name. Just remember the pattern. I've been ing for blank. I've been painting for 2 years. I've been baking as long as I can remember.
As long as I can remember. That's a lovely phrase, by the way. Very natural. It means you started so early you can't remember a time before it.
Which is actually a great example of the kind of phrase that sounds so fluent when you use it, but learners often don't know it's available to them. And that's something we try to do on this channel, show you the phrases that are just sort of floating around in natural English conversation that nobody puts in textbooks.
Like, okay, can I bring up another one? Because this comes up when you're talking about your hobbies, and someone asks, how did you get into that?
Oh, great phrase. Get into, meaning how did you become interested? How did it start? And the answer to that is usually a little story. And stories in English have their own natural language. It started when, I got into it because, funny story, actually. That last one is great because it signals to the listener that something interesting is coming and they immediately lean in. Funny story, actually. Yes, even if the story isn't that funny. It just means, here's a story, pay attention.
And people love stories. If someone asks how you got into your hobby and you just say, I don't know, I just started doing it, that's fine, but it's a closed door. Whereas if you say, oh, funny story actually, my grandmother taught me and she was completely convinced I was going to be terrible at it. Now we have something. Now we're talking.
And this is such an important thing about English conversation in general. The people who seem fluent and easy to talk to aren't necessarily the ones with the biggest vocabulary. They're often the ones who know how to open doors, who know how to give an answer that invites the next question.
That's a really good way to put it. Opening doors versus closing them. And hobbies are such a perfect topic for opening doors because there's always more to say. There's always the why behind it.
The why is everything. What's your hobby? Okay. Why do you love it? Now we're somewhere interesting.
So how do you talk about why you love something in English? Because I think this is actually where learners have the most trouble. The what is manageable, but expressing feeling, expressing why something matters to you, that's harder.
It is harder because it requires more vulnerable language. You're not just stating a fact, you're sharing something about yourself. And that's uncomfortable in your own language, let alone in a second one.
So what are some ways to do it?
Well, the most simple is just, I love it because, and then you finish the sentence. I love hiking because it clears my mind. I love cooking because there's something really satisfying about feeding people. Simple, but real.
And satisfying, that's such a good word for hobby conversations. So many hobbies have that quality where you do them and at the end, there's this feeling of completion, of having made something or done something.
Yes, and you can say exactly that. There's something really satisfying about it. It gives me a sense of accomplishment. I feel like I've actually done something real. These are phrases that work for so many hobbies.
What about the hobbies that are more about relaxation, like reading or listening to music, or just being in nature, where the point isn't to produce something, but to decompress?
Then you use different language. It helps me switch off. It's my way of unwinding. After a long day, it's the one thing that actually helps me relax.
Switch off is great, and unwind. Those two especially, very natural, very common.
And it's my way of, that structure is so useful. It's my way of being creative. It's my way of meeting people. It's my way of staying connected to where I grew up. You can attach almost anything to it's my way of, and it instantly sounds meaningful and personal.
Okay, I want to try something. Can we do a little role play? Just a quick example of what a real conversation about hobbies might sound like using all these things we're talking about.
Yes, let's do it. You ask me.
All right. So, Sarah, what do you do in your free time?
Oh, I'm really into ceramics, actually. I've been doing it for about 2 years now.
Ceramics. That's interesting. How did you get into that?
Funny story, actually. I was going through a really stressful period at work, and a friend dragged me to a beginner's class, almost as a joke, and I was genuinely terrible at it the first few times. Everything just collapsed on the wheel. But there was something about it that I couldn't let go of.
That's amazing. What do you love about it?
It's my way of completely switching off. When you're working with clay, you can't think about anything else. Your hands are busy, your mind goes quiet. There's something really satisfying about the whole process, even when things go wrong.
I love that. Okay, we'll stop there, but did you hear how that flowed? It didn't sound like a grammar exercise. It sounded like two people actually talking.
And every phrase in there was something we just taught. I'm really into. I've been doing it for. Funny story, actually. It's my way of. There's something really satisfying about it. All of it just woven into a natural conversation.
And none of the sentences were complicated. None of them required advanced vocabulary. It's not about using impressive words. It's about using the right words at the right moment.
Which is actually something I want to talk about for a second, because I think there's a tendency, especially among people who are well educated in their own language, to feel like they need to sound sophisticated in English, like they need to use long words and complex sentences, or they'll seem less intelligent.
And that instinct makes sense, because in your own language, maybe you do use sophisticated language, and it reflects who you are. But in English, especially at the intermediate level, simpler and clearer is almost always better than complicated and confusing.
A clear, simple sentence that lands is worth 10 complicated sentences that make the listener work too hard. Clarity is the goal. Clarity is actually the mark of good communication.
And with hobbies specifically, you're not trying to impress someone with vocabulary. You're trying to make a human connection. The simpler and more genuine you are, the more connected the other person feels.
Okay, let's talk about something that comes up a lot. What if your hobby is something specific, something that might need a little explanation? Like, it's not just I play football, but something more niche, something the other person might not be familiar with.
Oh, this is great, because a lot of people have very specific hobbies. They make terrariums, they do urban sketching, they collect vintage radios, and then someone says, "What do you do in your free time?" And they think, "Do I even explain this? Will they even know what I'm talking about?"
And the answer is yes, explain it, because the explanation is interesting, and English has really good language for explaining things.
That's a great one. It's basically where you, followed by a simple description. It's basically where you create small ecosystems inside glass containers. Now I know what a terrarium is, and I'm also a little bit fascinated.
It's kind of like is another one. You compare it to something familiar. It's kind of like gardening, but with drawings instead of words. That comparison immediately gives the listener a foothold.
And the listener, by the way, is almost always curious. People genuinely like learning about things they've never heard of. A niche hobby is not something to apologize for or minimize. It's interesting. Lead with the assumption that it's interesting.
That's good advice. Lead with the assumption that it's interesting. Because if you say, oh, it's kind of a weird thing I do, you probably haven't heard of it, you've already told the other person to be uninterested.
Whereas if you say, "Oh, I'm really into something called urban sketching. Basically, I take a sketchbook into the city and draw buildings and street scenes wherever I go," that's a conversation starter. That's someone I want to keep talking to.
Your enthusiasm carries people with you, even in English, even with an accent, even with some grammar wobbles. If you're lit up about your hobby, that energy comes through.
It really does. Enthusiasm is its own kind of fluency.
Can we talk about questions? Because in a conversation about hobbies, it's not just about answering, you also need to ask. And asking good questions is its own skill.
Absolutely. And this is actually where learners can really shine, even at intermediate levels, because good questions are often simple questions. How long have you been doing that? What got you into it? Do you do it on your own or with other people? Have you ever competed?
Have you ever competed? That's such a nice question for certain hobbies because it opens up a whole new area. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't, but either way, there's something to say.
And the follow-up, what was that like, is maybe the most versatile question in English conversation. You can attach what was that like to almost anything someone tells you, and it sounds natural and genuinely interested.
Because it is genuinely interested. What was that like is asking for experience, for feeling. It's not a yes or no question, it's an opening.
And when you ask good questions, you do two things at once. You show the other person that you're interested in them, which makes them feel good and like you, and you also buy yourself a little bit of time before you have to speak again, which is useful when you're still building confidence.
Smart conversation is also strategic conversation. There's nothing wrong with that.
Let's talk about one more thing, and this is for people who feel like maybe their hobby isn't impressive enough to talk about. Because I've heard people say this. My hobby is just watching TV. My hobby is just scrolling online. My hobby is just sleeping on weekends. And they feel embarrassed to say it.
Oh, this breaks my heart a little. Because first of all, watching TV is a hobby. If you watch thoughtfully, if you have opinions about what you watch, if it brings you joy, that's real. That counts.
And the English language gives you ways to talk about it that make it clear this is something meaningful to you. I'm really into documentary films. I love watching true crime series. I find the psychology behind it fascinating. I'm a huge fan of Korean dramas, and I've actually started picking up some Korean just from watching.
Oh, that last one. That happens more than people admit, and it's wonderful.
The point is, your hobby doesn't have to be impressive. It has to be yours. And the way you talk about it, the genuine enthusiasm you bring to it, is what makes it interesting to the other person.
And honestly, even saying, I've been trying to find a hobby I love, is a conversation. That's something. I tried painting last year. It wasn't for me. I tried running. Also not for me. Right now, I'm trying to get into bird watching. I have no idea why, but something about it is pulling me in. That's a fascinating person. I want to know more about that person.
Because they're being real, and real is always more interesting than impressive.
Always. So as we wrap up today, what do we want people to actually walk away with? Like if someone watched this whole thing and they have one conversation about hobbies in English tomorrow, what do we want that to look like?
I want them to start with, I'm really into, instead of just, I like. That one small switch changes the whole energy.
I want them to have a little story ready, just a small one, how they got into it, because a story opens the door and keeps the conversation alive.
I want them to use, there's something really satisfying about it, or it's my way of unwinding, because those phrases show that they actually feel something about this, which is the whole point.
And I want them to ask, what was that like, at least once? Because good conversation is not just talking, it's listening and responding. And that question is one of the best tools in the box.
And I want them to remember your hobby is worth talking about. Whatever it is part of you, and that makes it worth sharing.
Beautifully said. Okay, if this video helped you today, even a little bit, please give us a thumbs up. It tells us that this kind of content is landing and it helps other learners find us too. So please, that thumbs up means a lot.
And leave us a comment. Tell us your hobby. In English. Any English. Even just, I like cooking, or I'm into music. Write it down there in the comments, because that is already practice. You are already doing the thing.
Subscribe if you haven't already. Genuinely. Jack and I work so hard on every single video, and every person who joins this community makes it more worth viewing. We see you. We appreciate you more than we can say.
So much. Come back. Bring a friend who's learning English. We'll be here.
Until next time, find one opportunity today to talk about something you love in English, even just to yourself, especially to yourself. That counts.
Take care, everyone.
See you soon.